So welcome back to Think Differently. Today we're talking about a strategic decision that I made in my business that I'm going to just kind of walk you through, like how and why. Really the why. It's really the why. But I made the decision to. If you're not familiar with my business, I have for 2 years and like 4 months, I have been doing an event called Real Connections, and it's virtual networking events. And we've been holding them twice a month for over 2 years. And they work really well. You're going to hear a lot more about sort of like the purpose that they serve in my business. And they're free, which I think is actually a really important part of the strategy. But I've actually decided to move from, instead of 2 every month, to only 1 every month. And I think this is like, you make a lot of business decisions in your business, but some of them do not become like public, like people just kind of figure it out, or it's more of let me let somebody in here, or if it's more of like a behind the scenes thing that like it might just not be clear. But this is one that like it touches my community, right? It's a thing that changes for my people, for my audience. And it's funny to see, I always think it's funny, like, because it doesn't matter, but it's always interesting, I should say, to see what people's reactions are and like, oh, is everything okay? And sort of like, does this mean you're gonna phase things out? Like, what does this mean? And so that's what the conversation here today is, like, what does this mean? And I shared a few things in my email promoting this event, but like, there's a lot of things it doesn't mean. Like, I'm not phasing things out. I'm not shifting my business in a different direction. If anything, all of these things is to keep my business running in the direction that it has been running in for a very long time. I still kind of generally have the same big high-level goals that I do almost every year. And so what this really is, just to quickly give you the short answer, is like, this is a less is more decision. But what we're gonna do today is talk about it from a few different layers. I always talk about things from a strategic standpoint. I wanna talk also about things from a mindset standpoint. And sort of give you I get so much feedback that these kinds of topics, like the behind the scenes of like, kind of using my business as a case study. I get so much feedback. These are probably my most popular Think Differently events or topics that I bring to Think Differently and I think it's because it helps you think about your business differently. That's literally why I called it that. I didn't even mean to say that just now, but it really does. And I think the point is to understand, right? So for example, I've actually had several people sign up for this that wanted to watch because they have their own networking events. And so for this example and any example that I ever share, my sort of like blanket advice, guidance, preface, preamble for you is use this, like, truly listen to this from the perspective of a case study, not from the perspective of, oh, if Laura runs networking events and I want to run networking events, then I should copy paste what she's doing because what she's doing is working. I think it's really important. I'm going to tell you exactly why it's working, but why it's working for me. And when I talk about the why, then you can start to see, oh, does that actually translate and mean the same thing for your business? Or are you different? Is your business offering different? Is your style and preference and skill set different? And therefore a copy paste from my skills, from my strategy would actually be it might help you actually make the opposite decision, which would also then be right for you. And I just think that's where, in some ways, when we can get clear on that, so much of what I want to talk about today that I talk about with my clients is like, what's the strategic purpose of this thing that we're doing? What's the strategic purpose? Why? Why are we doing it? And sometimes my clients are like, oh my God, stop asking me that. But if we don't know why, right? If we think we know why, but we don't really know why, we can get ourselves spun around. That's where I see a lot of people really operating inefficiently in their business because they think they're setting out to accomplish one thing, but they're doing it with a strategy that's never going to get them what they're setting out to do. And so I just think this conversation is one that's near and dear to my heart. It's very much the way that I think about business. It's very much the way that I help coach my clients. And so back to my little preface, like, please listen to this and hear it from the perspective of understanding why I made these decisions, and then apply these concepts to your business, maybe not apply the exact actions to your business, okay? Unless your business is a lot like mine, you're a lot like me, your style is a lot like mine, right? Doesn't mean that you can't copy this, but I want you to know why. And so that's what we're doing today. So because again, I think it's so easy, just like anything in life, anything in business, it's so easy to look at it from the outside and think you know what's happening, or to think, like to make up a story, right? Because our brains just want to like finish the thought. We want to understand. And so we will fill in that gap when we are presented with nothing. And so on the one hand, like this is, to be a little bit fair, like this is not a huge decision. Like I'm going into so much detail because I just think it's such a great example of some of the concepts that I teach my clients, because I've gotten a lot of questions from my audience, because this does affect my audience. And I think, but I think like really at the end of the day, I also don't want to blow this out of proportion. This was not a really hard decision for me to make. And I think that's important to say up front, because I know the strategic purpose, because I know what gets me the results I want in my business, because I know how I prefer to operate, because I know how I like to spend my time and how I need to manage my energy, like because I just know all these things. And I want to say one other thing, because I've had a couple of really deep conversations with clients recently around comparisonitis, not to me, but to other people in their industry. And so I just really, let me let this person in. And so I just really want to also be really clear that, as I said 40 times, please don't copy paste this. Please know why I did this so that you can then copy paste what feels right to you, make the right decisions for you. But I think when we get into a spiral or a cycle or a pattern of comparisonitis, of looking around for what other people are doing as the reason that, you know, fill in the blank, the reason that you don't have X that you want in your business, I think it just gets really dangerous. And so I'm really being mindful, one, to share the why this fits for me, but two, to share, oh God, I lost my train of thought. God, this keeps happening. Hold on, it's gonna come back. Why not to copy paste, but also what I teach my clients is to really study themselves and their audience and their business. And that when we focus and we really get to know what we're doing and we have a clarity around that, then it just makes the comparisonitis so much easier to manage. That is mostly a mindset thing. But when our focus isn't, when we don't feel clear in our business, even if, and a lot of times I'll have a client say, this is really, really unclear. And we'll just unravel it and be like, oh, actually it's perfectly fine. Everything is fine. I've just made up stories around, you know, the strategy. And so again, all that is to say, if you study your business, if you study your audience, if you pay attention and know thyself really well, I think that is what makes business feel a lot simpler, a lot easier. And I like kind of want to whisper, because it's like then the brain calms down and we can just kind of get to business instead of doing all the things that our brain wants us to do to distract us from what's uncomfortable, to distract us from what we really need to do, to distract us from, you know, creating more success, because that the brain, you know, feels uncomfortable with that. Okay, just a quick recap. If you don't know anything about Real Connections, I just want to give you a couple of quick things. Most of you who come to this are coming to this fully aware, but just real quick. So we've been doing 2 events per month. They're free. We've been doing 2 events per month since February 2 years ago. So like more than 2 years, less than 2.5 years of twice a month. The growth has been very steady for the whole 2 years. I should have looked at this before, but I think it's like we averaged like maybe 15 to 17 people the first year coming to each event. And now our average is somewhere around 25 to 30. So pretty much doubled in that amount of time in terms of attendance rates. I did the math, 72% attendance rate over last year. So that's the exact number. I did write that down. And our signups per event are like 120% over last year. Like it's just starting to get crazy in that sense. And so, and that means that even for the people who don't show up to the events that they signed up for, most people a lot of times people will sign up for one and then they'll come to like the second one they sign up for, right? Not everybody comes to every single one that they sign up for, and that's fine. But that means even the no-shows are still generating list growth for me, right? They're getting onto my email list. Most of those people stay. Most of those people come to another event. most people repeat events and come regularly. And so the growth has been really, really steady and consistent over 2 years. I don't want to say that every single month it's gone up, right? I want to be really, really clear about that. There were days where it went down for a couple months and then it came back up. And I've done a lot over the years to do that. That's not what we're going to talk about today. We're not going to talk about the growth, like how I grew it. Happy to talk about that another time. But it's especially grown exponentially in the last 6 months because of some other changes that I've made to the way that I promote these. And so, again, I've done so many preambles, but I want to just say, like, the number one reason that I'm moving these back to 1 is because it's working. And this is, again, today is about a lesson in less is more. Today is a lesson in how to take something that's working and make it sustainable over time. I'm not interested, for the most part, we do have exceptions, but most of my clients know that, like, I'm not gonna get excited about, like, I just need to hurry up and make a shit ton of money just this month, right? Just this month, right? Because that is a completely different strategy and a completely different set of actions and a completely different mindset to, I want to grow my business sustainably and steadily and consistently over time. That's where I am. I want to be doing this for the next 10 to 15, 20 years, however long I decide to work until I retire. And so that's always where I'm focused. And when we shift to something short term, again, there are times and exceptions for that. I don't want to go there. But generally speaking, if we aren't looking at ongoing growth and taking something that's working and making it more sustainable and compounding that effect, that's scaling. And that's how we create sustainability in our business over time, which without recreating the wheel, starting new shit every day. Like, the sustainability piece is incredibly crucial, I think, as somebody who burned out first in high school, then in graduate school, while I was also working full-time. Don't do that. And then in my consulting career, which, by the way, I loved my consulting career, but I just burnt out because I worked too much for many reasons. And so if we're not looking at how to take something and make it sustainable, if you're not interested in that, then you're probably not interested in following me, because that's always going to be sort of one of the goals that I set for you and for me. That's usually a big piece of the work that my clients want to build into their business, that steadiness, that comfort. Okay, so this is about less is more, and this is about taking something that's working. I'm not changing it because it's not working. I'm changing it because it's working. And I think the mindset piece, I'm going to talk about strategy first and then mindset, but I want to just jump quickly to this mindset, because I think a lot of the feedback I've gotten when I tell people, oh yeah, I'm changing it because it's working. Like, what? That's a mindfuck. Don't you double down on what's working? Why would I not be doing more, right? Why? What? And I think, again, our brains just want to cling to what's working. And our society tells us that we need to optimize everything, right? And that strategy of optimizing everything or doubling down. So let me say that. Optimizing something is often a good thing to do in business. It does not apply here to this example. Doubling down on what's working is often a good strategy. It's actually one that I help my clients to execute on regularly. That's often, like, I'll say, well, why are we doing an extra thing? Why don't we just do more of the thing that's working? Can we just save our energy here and focus on getting you back into client work or signing more clients or whatever the goal is that you have. And so, but I think that also, while it is a strategy that I honor and champion on a regular basis, it also doesn't apply here, because optimizing my funnel forever and ever and ever is just going to pull me away from the actions that I really need to be taking right now in my business. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the strategy pieces. If you're live, say hi. You get entered to win, if you want, you get entered to win a free coaching session if you're here live. So if you would like to be entered, just say something in the chat to say that you want to be entered, throw my hat in the ring, whatever, say something to that effect. It has to be in the chat because that's the only way I'll be able to track it. But definitely make sure that you put yourself in there if you like, because I'll be drawing, I draw names every single month, once a month at the end of the month, which will be after today's event. And then I also, once your name is in, I keep your name in, right? So if you don't win this month, you might win next month or the month after, right? And every time you come, your name gets entered to win again. So you're more likely to win the more you come. Okay. And also if you're live and you think you know one of the reasons that I made this change, besides I already just gave you like some of the high level visions, but like if you think you know why, if you think you have an idea, if you want to like make up a story and tell me why you think, gold star for anybody who comes up with the right answer. And actually any of the wrong answers are also great fodder for this conversation. So, okay. Let me just check my notes because I think I told you all the things I wanted to tell you. So what's the strategic purpose of these events for my business? I'm just going to quickly run through them because they are free, and I think that's really important. A lot of people say you should just monetize this. And I just want to say, like, there are several strategic purposes this covers. The most important one, it's very captain obvious, but I think it's really important to be this clear about your business and your strategy and any action that you take. The number one reason I have these events, and frankly, the number one reason for anything I do in business, is to sell my one-on-one coaching spots. That's the number one reason. That's why it's here. That's literally what I'm here in business to do. I do not have other offers. I have a one-on-one coaching, business coaching offer, period. So anything that I'm doing should have something to do with selling that. And I could go on and on and on about why I don't monetize these, and I totally could, and I might one day, like never say never. But I'm not looking to create a second stream of income with these events. I'm looking to sell my one-on-one spots and to do my marketing and my networking in a way that feels good and sustainable and easy for me to execute on. So that's why I do them. So number one is to sell my one-on-one. Number two, from a marketing perspective, this is, for many intents and purposes, this is my top of funnel, right? So this is one of my reach strategies in my marketing, meaning it helps me grow my list. It helps me grow my audience. It helps me meet new people. And that's because I promote these. People find them on LinkedIn. They find them on Instagram. And most importantly, they find them because people who've come to these events over the last 2 years, who love them, who resonate with me and how I do stuff, and the people that I had a really great community before I started these events. And I think that's also important to say. I had a lot of really, because I've been networking now for 7, almost 8 years. And so people are sharing them. People are bringing in more people, and people are bringing in more people that resonate with, generally. I mean, not everybody is like a perfect fit for a client, but like generally speaking, I have enough of sort of my brand in here and my way and my vibe that people who come, that stay, that refer other people are probably generally, kind of my, want to be in my world too. So this is top of funnel. It serves that purpose, right? I have other things that I do to grow my audience, but this is a big one. And I think that's really important if we're talking about what's the purpose that it serves, and then why are you not monetizing it? Or what's the purpose that it serves, and then why are you not doubling down? I don't need a ton of reach. I don't need a massive audience as a one-on-one coach. And I think that's really important to understand. If I was doing group programs, this would be completely different. Because if you have a one-to-many offer, you need a lot more reach. You will churn through your audience so much quicker, and you need to spend more time on reach and growth in perpetuity. I mean, that's for everybody's business, but the levels are different. And I just think that's really, really important to say. Not that reach isn't important, but I just don't need the level of reach that some other business model might need. And then obviously it's also a nurture tool, right? If you get to know me, and also it helps with the like, oh, you know so-and-so and I know so-and-so, great, now we have somebody in common, right? It's kind of a one-to-many network, it is, and one-to-many networking strategy. But it also, again, the reason that it fits my business is also because it, as a one-to-one, I have a one-to-one offer. I offer pretty, I'm just going to say intimate service, meaning, let me be really clear and professional about what I mean. Like, I am working one-on-one with people all day, every day in their business, right? This is a vulnerable space. I'm also, it's not just, I don't just do like consulting and strategy. I help them with their mindset, right? Because yes, high touch, thank you. It's a much better word. I also help coach them around their mindset, right? They have to be open and vulnerable. They have to trust me. They have to trust me, not that I'm in charge of everything, but they have to trust me with their vulnerable worries around the business, with helping them make good decisions, with bringing the bullshit that their brains want to tell them so that we can sort of get them to neutral so we can move into the business. And so that level of trust that is needed, you need to get to know me. You know, that low know, like, and trust factor. Like, trust is a big deal now anyway in the coaching industry especially, but it's especially the case for one-on-one coaches, and that's never going to go away. I think from know, like, and trust, like, trust is even more important than, like, you don't even need to like me all that much if you trust me. Yes, those things go together, but I do think that is, if I asked every single client that's ever hired me, they all trust me, or they trusted me at some level to start the relationship. And so that's really important. And so for this purpose, right, it obviously this serves as a nurture tool. It helps people get to know me and to trust me, because I do talk about my work a little bit in those calls. And then finally, it helps me from a networking perspective, because my two primary strategies for marketing are using social media and using networking, and I use both. I like to have that diversity in my marketing, and they both serve each other, and that's a conversation for another day, but they absolutely serve each other. I don't feel like I'm spreading myself too thin in either direction. But this really does help me streamline my networking. So by setting them up to begin with, I was doing one-to-one coffee chats. I was going to other people's networking events. Then I shifted into running my own, and that gave me like streamlined step number one of like a lot fewer coffee chats. I was at least having coffee chats with people that were in my community, the people that were coming back. It helped me to stay in touch with everyone. And by the way, this is a really great way to use Real Connections or any other networking group or community that you're a member of. I definitely recommend, yes, from a reach standpoint, it's nice to get to know new people and expand your reach and exposure in other audiences. But to have some places where you go on repeat gives you the reach and the nurture, right? It helps you to maintain those relationships, because networking will wear you out if you focus it one-to-one all the time. And so that's what I've done with this strategy, but you don't have to run a networking group for that to execute in your business. You can just keep coming to Real Connections every month. You can just, keep coming to another, whatever group or community serves you. So that's the strategic purpose that it serves in my business. And it helps me to do it in a way that I can sustainably execute, meaning even though I'm a one-on-one coach, I really like the group facilitation piece. I did a lot of that in my corporate career. And I ran a few groups before I landed about, 4 or 5 years ago now, I landed on just one-on-one. But I enjoyed running groups. And so this gets me, helps me scratch that itch just a little bit. But what I learned about myself when I made that decision is I'm just so much better as a one-on-one coach than a group coach. And my energy is served so much better when I'm in one-on-one. I get so much more energy from my client conversations one-on-one, whereas groups both feed me and drain me. And so I have to be really careful that percentage of time that I spend in groups, it's like too much of a good thing, right? And too much of a one-on-one at some point will wear me out too, but understanding that percentage of time and understanding what works best for me and my energy levels and my zone of genius and what I'm really good at and what I enjoy doing and what I could do day in and day out. I could do this forever. Like I really, and I might, like, I just love it that much, the one-on-one. But I can't double down on group stuff in the way that I can on the one-on-one. And so one, that's why I chose this business model. But two, that's why this is was always a nice, like, and still is a really nice, like, sprinkle of a group without me creating all these groups or all these, without me overdoing it, let's say. And so number one reason, let me get into the strategy because I'm going way too far into this. One of the reasons that I'm shifting this to one per month is because I do have to watch my energy. I am a one-on-one coach. Like I am doing what they say, like, don't trade time for money. I love trading time for money. I could do a whole thing on that. Like I just am 100% sold on the business model. This is the business model for me. Lots of my clients do not have this business model, but it just works for me. And so because of that percentage of time, I just know, and I have to pay attention to my energy. And so one of the things that I've been doing over the last year and a half is really building, as I grow and scale the business to the next level of where it is going next, my time and my energy is like my number one resource. That is not renewable. Well, it's renewable, but it's like, it's finite in any given day or week. And so more real connections, right? Can you see how like we can optimize and do more, and then Laura's gonna max out. Laura's gonna get too tired, right? And so one reason that I am doing that is as I expand my energy to hold more clients at a time, more one-on-one clients at a time, we have to create space for that energy. We have to. And that's one of the things that I'm really big on. Like, this is like the definition of scaling, but I don't think it's taught enough. Most traditional most traditional thinking around scaling a business is just adding shit on top, right? So if I just keep serving more clients, then I'll just make more money. That is true, right? But I'm not willing to burn out again. My clients need me. I need this. I need this for my mental health. This brings me so much joy, right? I also need a personal life. And so when we are looking at growing your capacity and growing and scaling your business, we have to create space versus add shit on. And so this is an exercise in that. I had to create some level of space because there are only so many hours in the day and I'm not willing to work more than I work. And in fact, I've actually been working less this year. Okay, let me just start the comments and then I'll run down quickly through the rest of the strategy pieces and then we'll get to mindset. Okay, let's see. Count you in, okay. Camera and mic are off, yes, all good. I know, we had, we lost our power this morning. It's been a fun day in Roatan. Thank goodness this was in the afternoon. Obviously, it's a great idea. Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, yes, thank you for the high touch. Yes, Karen. That is unsustainable shaky growth, 100%. 100%. And it's attractive, though. I have to say, unsustainable shaky growth is attractive in the short term. We're like, no, it's good. I can handle it, and then I'll be able to pull back. And I really caution against that. It's just not nervous system regulating. You just don't have to, right? Like, I think that's the patriarchy. That's the productivity at all cost. We are still factory worker mentality approach to our work. And that's actually not how humans work. And that's actually like that optimize at every cost, right? Like that's actually not how we do things well. We think we do, but that's just not how it works. Okay. So number one, my business goals right now require me to expand my capacity. And the only way to do that is to carve out space. And we're going to talk again, like, so how did I know to carve out space from this versus something else? I'm just checking my notes here because I've been talking off the top of my head. I want to make sure I tell you so time, a lot of efficiencies. Okay, energy, we talked about time and energy. And then, okay, I'll stay on this topic in terms of creating space. So one of the things that, two things that I have wanted to create space for that I haven't really had the space for is I wanted to, I've been playing, I don't know if you've noticed with Think Differently, like I started these, I think in August of last year, and I did them like every single week for a while, just like with Real Connections. I did them, by the way, let me back up. I never intended to do Real Connections twice a month for this long. That was never my plan. I always intended to do them for once a month. I think that's just a much more sustainable way to navigate anything. But I wanted to create that momentum, and I had the energy and I had the time. And so I'm so glad I did. I would never, like one of the things I'm really big on is like, we just have to make ourselves right. That was the right decision for my business at the time. And it is the right decision for my business right now to keep going with those, but also to carve out space for other pieces. And it's other pieces like being able to do Think Differently at another level. When I feel like I found my sweet spot of doing these twice a month. These are better than they were when I started. One, because I've done a bunch more and I like have sort of cycled out through I got the bugs out and I've kind of like figured out how much and how little to like share with you guys, those kinds of things. But I just, when I have the time and space to really think about what topics I want to bring to you and what I want to share in that, these become better. And this is a nurture tool. This is a conversion tool. People book discovery calls off of these calls. Speaking of, let me share my links in the chat. If you want to sign up for another Think Differently, if you want to book a discovery call, all the things are there, even the replays. Right, but people book discovery calls off of this. This helps people really get to understand, get to know me better, right? Get to trust me better, but most importantly, to get a sense of like how I think about business and how I support my clients. And so this is a nurture and conversion tool. And when I have a sizable audience that's plenty good for me, for my business, for that one-on-one, right? So reach is covered. We're going to keep focusing. We're going to keep allowing reach to go, but that's just not the number one problem to solve in my business. That reach and all my nurture has created a really warm pipeline, and I've expanded my client roster and I've opened up extra spots on my client roster. So my job right now is to fill those spots and to convert those spots. And so that's why I'm spending more time focused on frankly, my content, Think Differently here. And then I've held off for almost a year. I think it's been a year since I did a masterclass. I used to do masterclasses like quarterly. And so I'm bringing those back. I just haven't had the space. I have not had the space. And so those are going to come back. And those are also a really good nurture and conversion tool for me. And so again, to just help you understand, like those were always all in place. But as I shift the percentage of my time on them, that just serves the piece of my business that I'm focused on now. Let me know if that makes sense. And then the other piece specific to Real Connections, it's already working. I've put in the time. I've put in all of you who have been there, who have shared them with other people, who have just come and shared your real self to make them the beautiful events that they are. They're already working. And I think this is where, sort of the strategic less is more is important. Like number one, supply and demand. If we only have one per month, more people will come. More people will come, right? Even if it's just more people that signed up will show, as opposed to, oh, I won't make it this week, I'll just come to the next one, right? People are more likely to, it's just, I can't predict the future. I'm sharing this vulnerably because I don't have the data. Like, I feel like I'm pretty sure about this, but I'm not doing it just because of numbers. But I just want to say, when we have more people show up, that is better for you all. That is better for everybody who participates, because you get to meet new people, you get to expand your network, you get to continue, growing as well. And then it's good for me because I get that one-to-many, exposure access point, right? In any given point. I don't need to do it twice a month, right? And frankly, for many people are saying to me, oh, thank you. I've been needing to pull back anyway on networking. I've been doing too many networking events. And so this helps me, prioritize and streamline. And that's also a thing that I have conversations with clients all the time around, like, how much networking are you doing and how are you streamlining that for yourself? And so I'm hoping that will serve this for you as well. More is not always more. So we don't need to every month now to keep growing at this level. I do think supply and demand works in some cases. I think they'll continue to grow because I'll continue to market the crap out of them, but they'll continue to grow most likely also because I do think when there's only one per month and your only option is to wait a whole nother month before you can come meet these amazing people, I do think it just makes people, prioritize the one. And I also think I want to just quickly say, like, people right now are at their lowest attention spans ever. People are exhausted. People are overwhelmed, not just from what's going on in the world, but AI, social media, all the things. We just have so much coming at us that I think I want to be mindful of how I say this. Like, that's what's happening in the ethos, right? Like, that's what's happening in the world, in the industry. General trends are that events, even though I've got all these events are generally not generating the same amount of attendance as they used to back in, let's say, 2020, when everybody was at home on the computer. And that was a way of connection. It was almost our only way of connection, right? So like attendees back then were much greater for events. They're down now comparatively, right? That was like probably too high than normal. And now we're down. Again, Real Connections does not match that. Real Connections is continuing to grow. And I don't want to be a part of the narrative. I'm doing this for my business, not to model things for my audience, but I do think it helps to serve that as a bonus. Like, I don't want to be part of the more is more culture. I don't agree with that. Yes, there's time for sprints and there's time to do the stuff. And I'm not saying that you need to sit on your couch and like hope for clients, but I think it's really important just to say we need to also meet our audience where they are. And I think my job is always to serve my audience, even the people that never work with me, my community and my audience. I want to serve them, and me continuing to offer a shit ton of things for them to come to just almost encourages them to stay in that cycle. Whereas what we really need to be doing, all of us, is nervous system regulation, calm, getting to work, going and doing the thing, sprinting when we need to, resting when we need to, right? But that sustainability piece is more this, right? And so as I build that into my business, I also want to help encourage, like, get you into that zone too. And then I had one more strategic reason. Are there any questions? Is this making sense? Is this what you thought I was going to say? Or did you think I was going to say something else? Yeah, it's already working. We don't need this many more to keep growing. And I think most likely even to keep growing at this level. Let's see. I'm sharing this one before I have the evidence of what I think is going to happen. But I also think, so I'll share more as we go. But I think it probably will. And again, I don't need it to grow at the same rate. That's also the thing. Like, I just know what my business needs. And like, if that happens, that's great. And that's a bonus, but I don't need that level of growth all the time. And I'm better off, plucking the fruit that I've planted. And it's that compound effect, right? It's the compound effect. This is what scaling is taking what's working and refining it. And so I want to quickly talk about refinements. This has been on my mind for some time. When I finally made the decision in May, it was not, or maybe it was April, I think it was May. It was not a hard decision, but it was not a hard decision because I know the strategic purpose. I know what my goal is within my business right now, and what actions I take will get me to where I want to go. I know what the priority is, right? It doesn't mean Real Connections isn't the priority. I just don't need two of them, right? It's kind of like most people right now are not posting 7 days a week on social media. It's just not needed. You can get away with 2 to 5, depending on who you are and what you're doing. And so it's kind of that. It's like, I just don't need that. And the compound effect is, right, just like on social media, where in some places, especially on LinkedIn right now, like, your reach is growing days after you post versus the reach that you have that day. And so again, just to sort of honor that. But we have been refining and improving these events. And I think that's really, really, really important to say, because I've refined and improved the events, that also helps me know that I don't need to. So one thing that I did in February when we had these events, I will go to the full hour. By the way, I think the calendar invite is for 45 minutes, but if you need to leave in a few minutes. You're more than welcome to. I just want to give you a quick time check, but I have so much to say today. I will, and I'll answer questions, that I will go the full hour. But in February, yes, please watch the rest of the replay. That's awesome. Thank you for being here. In February, we had our 2-year anniversary, and I did a lot of promotions for that. I incentivized people to invite other people, and we had 50 people show up live, which was the most people that we'd ever had join. And I knew that was going to be a big event because we had like 70 or 80, I think it was 77 people sign up. And so I knew that was going to be big. And so the other thing that had been on my mind for some time is the bigger these get, the harder it is for me to manage them myself. I used to do the tech by myself. And so in February for that event, actually my partner came in and helped. So he was in the other room and he was managing all the tech and putting people in breakout rooms and letting people in, and managing the chat and all of that. And it was incredibly helpful. I knew I needed that support. And so after that, I started bringing my VA in to help me. And so Maggie's been joining us every single time. And that has been incredibly helpful because every time I thought about moving it back, I knew that if I went down to one per month, we would most likely have more people. And anyone who runs groups knows that, like, on the one hand, you still have to, there's an energy level that you will exert for any sized group. And holding space for 50 people is a lot different than holding space for 20 to 25. And understanding my energy, understanding my capacity, understanding where I wanted to spend my time and energy, like I'm better off. Like, it's not either or, but I am always going to be better off, and it's easier for me to show up. I could show up for 3 clients, and that would be 3 hours, versus 1 hour with real connections probably takes the same amount of energy for me. So I have to be mindful of that, right? More is definitely not more in that sense from my energy perspective. And so, but now that I have had Maggie, as we've grown, and I've been able to experiment with holding that many people, I know that I've got it for the next, as we continue to grow. I know that I can do that. And it's not about can. I could have held space for 50 people 2 years ago. But I just think it's about understanding your energy and how you want to spend your time and what feels good. Like, I could, and I might cap the size of the events at some point. I'm not there yet. But bringing in support has enabled me to do better, to be more focused. It's so much easier, but it's also, I really do think these events are better now that I have that support. And then that's just going to also help compound. And so again, I want to encourage you to see that scaling something like this, even though like I'm pulling it back, this is actually how we're scaling Real Connections. Like, this is honestly, in some ways, 1, because I have other things that my time needs to be focused on instead, but 2, it's also, this is how they grow now. And I think when we're scaling, it's really easy. It's that whole, like, what got you here won't get you there. You're to your next level. And I actually think, like, what got you here will get you there. Like, if I don't maintain those relationships, if I am not still, holding my end of the bargain of honoring integrity and values and the way that we do things, like, they will not continue to grow. So what got me here will continue to get me there, right? That compound effect too. But then what got me there won't get me there, meaning just adding more, just doing it the same is also not going to get me there. And so these little refinements that we've been doing, I don't want to say behind the scenes, because you've seen, like, if you've been there, you've met my VA, you've seen how we've managed them a little bit differently. But all of those things have helped me to see that as we grow, I just have built in that capacity now. I hope that's making sense. Okay, let me check the comments, and then I'm going to jump to the next piece here. Okay, let me know if you have questions. So in summary, less is more. With scaling, building your capacity, honoring the compound effect, it's a less is more, but it's also a let me finish the thought I was trying to say. I just realized I left something out. It's also when you take something like Real Connections and you look to grow or refine it or scale it, grow it or scale it, let's say, refinement has to be a piece of that. Does that make sense? And so I've refined them. So now they're even better. Minimal effort there, right? Like, again, these are refinements. This is not me shoving. This is the other thing I see with like group programs or memberships or courses. Like, we want to shove a bunch of other stuff in it. I'm not saying I'm improving it from that perspective, right? I'm not offering a mastermind as a part of it. I'm not answering questions about how to run your business in there for free. I'm not shoving a bunch of stuff in there. But what I did do is refine it to make me better at delivering. And I'm getting better, I think, at speaking to the people who we want to attract to come in. And then logistically managing the details and having Maggie come in and have that support so that my brain is freed up to do the part that's most important, right? Just like when you scale and you hire a VA to help you, like schedule your social media posts so that your brain is freed up to just write the content. It's that same concept. And so the refinement was a very important part of growing them, but also it's because I did that refinement, the refinement and I would say like it's an efficiency exercise, that it enables me to take it to that next, that was easier to make that decision. Okay. Do you have a set day of the month? Like first, it'll be second Tuesday. It's always been second Tuesday and then fourth Thursday. We're just dropping the fourth Thursday, but that is not until August. I know that's really confusing. Summer is weird because I'm on vacation in July. So if you just check the event, if you go, there's a link right here. Here, I'll stick it in here again. The calendar on the website will tell you when. So July is a wonky time, and then by August, it'll be the second Tuesday going forward. That's probably the better way to say it. I hope that makes sense. Okay. All right, let me just share a couple of mindset pieces here. And some of these are mine, and some of these are mindset pieces that other people brought to me. And let me just share one other thing. When I started these events, I said this already, that like I never really intended to do them twice a month forever. Like I never saw that as sustainable. I'm actually really proud of myself that I kept going, and that's a testament to the community, and to just, it's just been such a joy and a pleasure to have that space. I just don't have the space anymore. Or if I did, I would be sacrificing serving more clients, and that's really that's really how I make the difference that I want to make. But I did speak to a lot of people when I started my events, and I asked them how other people who were running other networking events or similar events, and I did check in with some of my colleagues, and I saw some of them doing it once a month. I saw some of them doing it once a quarter, and I saw some of them doing it once a week. And my once a week people were like, "Oh my God, don't do it." And I was like, "Yeah, that felt really overwhelming to me as a one-on-one coach to basically like serve a group once a week." And so the twice a month thing for me was always for the building of the momentum. But I did check in, and I just want to say, like, for those of you who are running events, I think it doesn't matter. Like, you just find your way and your path. But that did work well for me to like ramp up and to do more at a time, and to get my audience used to knowing that this is what I do now, and so that they'll come and they don't forget to sign up and those kinds of things. And then scale back whenever you feel right. You don't have to do it for 2 years. And so I just want to make sure I say that. Yeah, I think the mindset piece. So this is something that I work with my clients a lot. And like I said, this one wasn't really mine. It took me, it was a moment of it from a mindset perspective, but I think it's really hard. And I just want to honor this because this is something I work with my clients on a lot, which is, and I have this for other decisions that I've made. It's really hard to make a decision before the evidence presents itself that's going to work, right? So in this example, I just said, I can't predict the future, but my thinking is that we'll continue to grow at the same rate. I don't know if that's true. Some practical business knowledge tells us that that's a good, prediction to make. but let's see. Like I'm just willing to take the risk. I think it's a very low risk. And also, again, my number one need out of Real Connections is I don't need it to grow at this level anymore. I actually think this will continue to help it grow, and I want it to, but like the need isn't there. And so that makes it an easier, softer decision for me. But again, I just think it's very hard sometimes in business, and this is where I think it's so important to have a coach. If you don't already have one, I would love to talk to you. But that's where it's so important to be held in your decision making, because we want to, as I said earlier, we want to cling to what's working and just run it into the ground. And that is just not sustainable. It's finding that balance. And that making the decision, that we're always and ever doing that. Think back, and so every single one of you have already done that. Think back to when you started your business. That was an example of making the decision before the evidence presented itself. You didn't know for sure. You can know, right? But you don't have evidence yet in the outside world that this business is going to be what you want it to be, that it's going to be successful, that like people are going to hire you, whatever, the thing. But you have to have some level of faith in yourself. And so same. And I think honestly, most decisions in business are that. And that's one of the main reasons, just by nature, that they're so hard, is because you have to make the best decision you can with the information that you have, and trust yourself to make a good decision. And so I'll give you, like, my mindset around this is what's right for me right now. I am 100% clear. And in fact, I made the decision, but I wasn't going to start it until June. And then I got sick in May and had to cancel the May 2nd event. So it actually, it got executed before I meant for it to. And even on that moment, I was like, oh yeah, this is the right decision for me, right? It was such helpful evidence for me, even though it's not evidence of growth. It was just evidence of that knowing in my body of yeah, I'm okay with that, with just having one event this month. That clinging, for me wasn't there. If it was, it would have been something to work through and to think through and to really see what's under there. But that, I think, is what's really hard. And that's also in some ways why I'm sharing this before the evidence presents itself, because I think, one, this wasn't a hard decision for me to make, so it's not incredibly vulnerable for me to share. And so because I don't think that you have to share vulnerable things with your audience until you're ready, or unless you're ready. But I think this is a really good example, and that's why I'm sharing it today. Let's see, we talked a lot about less is more, and I think that is a mindfuck, right? Because when you're growing your business, when you're building your business, more is more. You're usually putting more time, and energy into something, and less oftentimes money, depending on how much money you have when you start your business or how much money you're willing to invest. But oftentimes we're DIYing a lot of stuff. We wear 97 hats in the beginning. And then as we grow, that shift, there's several major shift points as we grow the business at various levels. And we get to these little milestones where you cannot grow any further until you invest something else in your business. Money to hire a VA, money to hire a project manager, money to hire an operations person, whatever, the money to hire a social media manager. And that we change and reallocate our time and energy as we go. And so if I'm, still doing the back end operations of my business while trying to grow my client numbers at this phase in my business, I will not get there. I have to be freed up to do something. But that from a mindset perspective, we talked so much about it from a strategy perspective, but that mindset is really hard, because we think, wait, it's that but what got me there? What got you here will get you there, but what got you here, and some certain things that got you here, you have to stop doing, right? Just to go back to mindset pieces, the strategies that you executed in your childhood or in traumatic examples to keep yourself safe are not going to serve you in the long run, right? And so it was good for you to learn those things. They served you, they protected you, they served you in that moment, and they are so outdated and do not serve you now, right? And so same with business. That's sort of, again, I just keep saying mindfuck because it's the only way I know how to say it. That is sometimes where I find those pivotal moments in business when you're really wanting to get to the next level and you either feel stuck or you are stuck or it feels hard to jump to that next level. So oftentimes, please, please, please get a coach if it's not me. So oftentimes I think what we just really need is to be held in that space and to really work the mindset pieces that work the crap that's coming up, because the brain doesn't like to be comfortable. The brain doesn't like to be uncomfortable. And so this creates discomfort at such a scale. And so that is the challenge of scaling, and that is why it can be hard, but it's not. It's just getting your brain wrapped around it. And so again, that's also why I'm sharing this, because I think this is such a good example. Yeah, and then we talked about creating space instead of adding, as that is how you scale if you want to be a human being and not burn out. But I think the mindset piece around that can be hard and that I think is important to share, to hopefully take with you, is like reminder that when you say yes to one thing, you must say no to something else. And by definition, that's you. So me growing my business at this level and wanting to serve more clients at a time, that's the thing I want more than real connections growth. That's the thing that I want more than likes on Instagram or whatever, right? Like I can want all those things and I can have all those things, but I still have my top priority. And then that helps me to say yes to one thing and say no to others. Which then, what I love about that, as hard as it is, or it can be, to say no to something, one, saying no is the only way, practically speaking, to create that space. But it's also how you honor your brain when you're doing something new. It needs that repetition. It needs that like ongoing, like, I said I'm growing my business, but then I'm going to do 4 real connections a month instead, right? Like that, I said I'm going to grow my client roster is what I meant, right? I'm going to grow my client roster, which means I'm going to spend more time serving clients. Where are those hours allocated? And when I say yes to that, but then I go, well, we still have to do 2 real connections a month, right? As an example, I'm not letting my brain honor that commitment to myself. Does that make sense? And so in some ways, what I love about this is it's actually a mindset action and a strategy action at the same time. When you honor that commitment by saying yes to more clients in my example and no to a second real connections, that helps your brain see that as the right decision. That helps your brain recommit every single day because you're continuing to say no to the one so that you can say yes to the other. You're building that space. It's so practical, it's so strategic, but it's such a mindset shift, and it helps your brain to get used to that idea that it's one thing to want something in your business. It's another to be like, this is what I want. Therefore, this is my top priority. Therefore, this is how I'm going to spend my time. And that means I'm not going to spend my time on my third priority. Or I'm not going to spend as much time in this example on my third priority, right? That execution of how you spend your time also helps your brain see that that is a safe action or a safe decision. And then you just kind of recommit over and over and over again, which then makes it easier to make a decision next time because you've just made yourself right over and over and over and over and over again. I made a good decision there, therefore I can make a good decision next time. And I think that's where some of the mindset pieces come in around decisions where we just don't trust ourselves. And we have to just build that self-trust. And repetition is really good for that. Okay. I think I've actually covered everything on my list. Do you guys have any more questions? Let me just check the chat. I see a couple things in here. 1 a month is easier. Honestly, yes, 1 a month is easier to remember. All in all, I think it's a great idea. Thank you for saying that. I hadn't actually thought about that. Like first, what was it? It's second Tuesday, fourth Thursday. That's not always easy to remember, right? That's a really good point, Karen. I always ask myself, for the sake of what? For the sake of what? Thank you for sharing that. I really love that. And I think, yes, so to use your example, right? oh, I'm going to expand my capacity to serve more clients at the same time. That's what all my actions should be for the sake of that, right? And therefore, what I'm saying no to, which isn't even saying no to real connections, right? I want to be very clear about that. They're not like, people were like, oh, so you don't like them anymore? I'm going to give you my little quick example of the things that people have said or thought. Oh, are you just not enjoying them anymore? I've shared that I've had some health issues this year and had to manage my energy around that. And a lot of people said, oh, is it because of your health? And it's like, no, actually, if it was because of my health, I was much worse in February and March and April than I am now in May and June, where we are right now as of today's recording. I would have actually done it sooner. So I think that's an interesting one, but I just hadn't shared that with my audience at that point. So understanding when people share it and when something was taking effect, I think is always important. And then I'm not taking my business in a new direction. I'm not putting out a new offer, like none of this, right? It's not a saying no to real connections. It's a saying yes, or to Tammy's point, like for the sake of what, or to use the example that I used in the beginning, like it's saying yes to my strategic priority. I'm sorry, it's understanding it's saying yes to my strategic priority, but it's understanding the strategic purpose of any one thing that I'm doing. And the strategic purpose of real connections does not indirectly, but it does not directly serve my strategic priority right now in service of what. And so therefore, it gets to stay, and I have to focus. I have to carve some time out from it, right? It's just that simple. So what we will be doing, Real Connections is here to stay. Think Differently is here to stay. And I'll be doing some master classes, which are a little bit more workshop sort of format, kind of like this, but more workshop format and longer, and a little bit more in depth in terms of just some more, I think it's more actionable. Sometimes these conversations are like things to think about, whereas this is kind of the master classes will be a little bit more actionable. So stay tuned for those. I think the first one's going to be in August, maybe September, but right now I'm targeting August because I have the time, because I have the space, because I've carved it out. So thank you for being here. Thank you for coming to Real Connections. I hope this was valuable. And a couple of things. If you're live, you're always welcome to do this in the chat, but you're also welcome to just hit reply to any emails that you get from me, or the email that you get with the replay, which will come out next week. But feel free anytime to request a topic. Like so often these topics that I pick are based on questions that you ask, topic requests that you make. Like in this case, this example, I kind of was probably going to do this anyway, but I got so many questions and comments about why I made this decision that it just helps me go, oh, okay, this is a helpful topic for people. So let me serve you. Let me give you what you want. I'm happy, as long as it's in my wheelhouse and purview, I'm happy to share. So feel free to request something else. July 31st is our next one because I'm on vacation next month. And I forgot what it's about. Let me see if I can tell you really quick. I can't remember what the title is. Here we go. Oh, it's about vacation, strategic vacation planning, how to build time off into your business without overdoing it before and after. Because that's literally what I'm doing. I'm taking 3 weeks off in July. And so we'll be talking about that on July 31st. So you're welcome to sign up for that now. And then I will pick some topics for August. Like I said, you're welcome to do that. Okay, I've got one more comment here. I think it's brilliant. Oh, thank you. I've actually just come to a realization that it's a life coach that I need. I was banging my head off brick walls alone for too long. Yes. And making decisions are so important. I made the best one by moving house, and funnily enough, it came up due to health issues too. Yeah, if we don't execute on our decisions ourselves, the universe would make the decision for us. Yeah. I think congratulations, you're doing great. Thank you. And I do hope you're okay. And yes, it was valuable until it's come. Thank you. I'm actually doing really great. So I never had a big health problem, but I definitely had some minor issues, but kind of a big impact in the short term. And I will continue to have to deal with a little bit of low energy, but thank you for asking. I'm doing really well, really, really well. And I am not adding things back in to the level that I was. So I'm not coming back. I mean, I work a pretty full week anyway, but I'm not adding anything in. And that's probably one final thing to say to that is like I stayed committed to fewer hours per week while also adding on client spots. And so like by definition, you know, the math doesn't math if you're just going to keep adding stuff. So, okay, I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you next time, and bye. Have a good summer.